Sanji versus Jinbei will be a complete stomp, and I'm going to prove it to you. What's up guys, Restless Gambler here, and in today's video, I decided to fight the One Piece community once more. Ever since chapter 1059's debut into the series, there has been this narrative that Sanji is out of the monster trio and got replaced by Jinbei. So the question at hand is, what would happen if Sanji went against a former warlord in the name of Jinbei? So like always, make sure to like, subscribe, and watch it to the end. Given his experience in the field of piracy, I think it's fair to start with Jinbei. Jumping right into strength, there is a minute pool of fights to pull from, but we'll start from the first ones we see. Starting all the way back from chapter 559, Jinbei seeing Moria buffed up by using marine shadows just one-shots him. He punches him and he just falls asleep for the rest of the war. And remember, this Moria was tanking Gear 2 Luffy attacks, but it's a given that Jinbei as early as Marineford scaled above Luffy. Just remember, he has one-shotting potential. Going beyond pre-time skip showings of Jinbei's strength, we could start in Fishman Island. In chapter 629, we get a very overlooked showcase of Jinbei's strength. In context, as Luffy attempts to go to the castle to save Zoro, Brook, and Usopp, Jinbei punches Luffy. Luffy is actually hurt by this, and Jinbei explains that his punches are a form of Duraneg, but keep that in mind for later. Also, Luffy enters Gear 2 right after and hits Jinbei with a jet stamp, and Jinbei blocks it with ease. They go to have a final punch at each other, but they actually hit Sanji, and even after the punches hit Sanji's face, they still end up hitting each other, making each other bleed. But we'll go back into that later. In the same arc, he shows his strength in battle with the Vagabond drill, pushing Wadasumi's body into the air. We fast forward about 200 or so chapters and we enter what most people call Jinbei's best strength feat. In this case, Jinbei pushed the weaker and lighter Big Mom off the ship with the amp of water. Now, I'm trying not to be biased, but what is so special about this feat? Like, can we be real here? He didn't even damage her in any way. He just pushed her. Now, it's not to say that Jinbei is weak because he couldn't damage Big Mom, but for your best strength feat to be pushing a weakened character off a ship is kind of fraudulent. Later in the story, he fights Who's Who, but he's kind of fodder. Now, when it comes to Jinbei's durability, there are many layers to it. If he can react to certain attacks, he will either dodge it or block it in a specific way. That specific way being him reinforcing his block with armament haki and two arms in the way. So in character, Jinbei is not the tanking type, but sometimes such reinforcements don't help. For one, it didn't work on Big Mom, but no one is holding that against him because, well, that's Big Mom. But two, it didn't work on Who's Who. To put it in context, Who's Who uses his hybrid form and uses the attack Fang Pistol, a different version of the finger pistol we see from the CP9 members. This attack was actually able to bypass Jinbei's armament haki, but when he's mad, he gets a major amp in his durability, as later on he's tanking Fan Pistols head on with no armament haki. To be honest, Jinbei is not meant to be a speedy character. He almost always fights with people relative to him in speed and bigger than him. I think bro has a fetish. But going back to the topic, regardless of how he's meant to fight, he does get complimented for his speed. Given it was a racist remark, but nevertheless it was a compliment. I briefly stated this earlier, but Jinbei actually has some good hacks. Because of Fishman Karate, he has the ability to negate devil fruits without needing to use haki. The logic behind this is that the shockwaves of Fishman Karate, which is the control of water, pulsate through water in the air and in the body. And so this will work on anyone because, well, everyone is made of water. This allowed Jinbei to damage Luffy without even touching him because the shockwaves from his punch travel through the air's moisture and to Luffy's body. This is also why when he beats Who's Who here, he doesn't hit him directly because the shockwaves do the work for him. This means Jinbei has long range and close range Duraneg. This is on top of his use of armament to amp his punches or defense, and his use of observation haki to dodge attacks. And under the circumstance that Jinbei is underwater, he can utilize it to his advantage. He uses attacks like the ocean current shoulder throw where he uses water as a projectile, so he could basically throw anyone else out of the water just like he did here to Luffy. But with all that said, I've skilled Jinbei to a nice amount. His arsenal and versatility in water and land is only matched by a select few. But without any further delay, let's go scale Sanji. Just like my Sanji vs Katakuri video, I decided to split up Sanji's scaling into two to emphasize the buff that his awakening gave him. But this time, I might have to simplify his scaling a lot more because it's very obvious that some One Piece fans cannot comprehend anything they don't agree with. But for now, let's start with Sanji's scaling before his awakening. Sanji before his awakening is really underrated. I mean, like, insanely underrated. I even hear people compare him to Page 1. For strength, we'll start off in Fishman Island, but it's kind of funny to think about. Earlier in the video, I talked about Jinbei's strength pushing Wadatsumi in the air. Well, sadly, while it did damage him, Sanji did more damage to him with Hell's Memories. But that's like so damn early into the story. Let's go to Wano already to get his best feats. The first thing we could talk about is how Sanji managed to hit Queen so hard that it not only destroyed his scientifically modified teeth, but the weight of the kick turned him into a helicopter. And after this, he consistently shows strength that damages this huge ass dinosaur. Unlike Jinbei, Sanji is meant to be the speedy type. As early as Whole Cake Island, he was Perception Blitzing Oven, a commander right under the three sweet generals. Against Queen, however, while sometimes he could catch him off guard, he wasn't able to blitz him like he's able to later in the battle. Nevertheless, he's fast enough to evade almost all of Queen's attacks. Now into his durability. This one might be even funnier than the Wadatsumi feat because Sanji actually tanked an attack from Jinbei in tandem with Gear 2 Luffy. That should give you guys some ideas. I'm not gonna. But later in the series, he showcases his durability and endurance with Black Maria. After his brutal beatdown from the hands of her, he exits, has to carry Zoro around, pulls up on Queen and fights him the entire time without a break. His durability capped at Queen's serpent attack, however, but I don't view it as an anti-feat because such an attack would break a lot of people. Post-awakening Sanji, however, holy crap. Starting off with his strength, from vaguely and barely being able to damage Queen, his attacks sent him flying and crying out in agony. But that's only a taste of his buff and power, because his speed is definitely the most apparent buff of all. Before his awakening, like I said, he could barely catch Queen off guard, but regardless, he was always evading Queen's attacks. Well now, in base, Queen can't even see him. And this is a consistent feat because he does it twice in the same fight after his awakening. And something that people forget is that Sanji gets faster from the fire of his Jambes. So like he says here against Jabra, his fire will allow his move to be faster, and he further reinforces it with his use of Ifrit Jambe. Dog. Ifrit Jambe is crazy. So not only was there a huge buff in speed from his base that was already Perception Blitzing Queen, someone who could perceive hybrid Marco, but his kicks are on another level. His kicks are so hard that Queen after one combo is just done. And when Sanji hits him with Beef Burst, he gets sent to another side of the island. Nah, let's talk about this, cause I'm really tired of hearing about this Big Mom feat. Jinbei's best feat, in his strongest form, him with water, is pushing Big Mom off a damn ship. Then we have Chad Sanji, who in Diablo Jambe is sending Queen through walls. There are levels to this. And at the highest level is how Sanji is able to send Queen to another side of an island with one kick. Can we be real here, people? Nah, it. I'ma just say it up front. If current Sanji was in Jinbei's place here, he was sending Big Mom all the way back to the island they were running on. If you guys want to continue wanking this feed, I literally do not know what to tell you. Sanji's durability and endurance after his awakening is quite crazy. First off, unlike Jinbei, he is not getting damaged by bullets, and he's tanking second commander's scientifically modified named attacks, let alone a Toby Roppo's named attacks. And through all of that and a whole transformation going on in his body, he falls asleep for like 5 minutes and is ready to throw hands, or maybe legs, I don't know. But yeah, he's ready to fight again almost immediately. Yo, this is probably the most crazy section of this video. So starting off with the most basic hack Sanji has, he obviously has armament and observation haki. His observation haki being heavily wanked by Oda, being able to outmaneuver Future Sight. And his armament haki is even able to hurt a Toby Roppo by just defending himself. But moving on farther from that, Sanji has both Skywalk and Blue Walk. So not only can Sanji fight on land, but he can fight in air and water, being able to use a technique that makes him comparable to Fishman. That's kind of funny. Anyways. Even more than that, he conjures flames, the different Jambes. These flames increase his attack potency and speed tremendously. And finally, he has regeneration. Regeneration so great that it allows him to recover from almost all of his bones in his body being destroyed. Now, I've scaled both of these competent fighters, and I think now is the time to set the ground rules for this skirmish. So for this battle, it'll happen twice. Once on land, but another time in water so that we could be more charitable to Jinbei. Sanji, of course, will have some way to breathe underwater, like the bubble he had at the beginning of Fisherman Island. So, without further ado, let's start with the fight on land. So the battle will start and... damn, Jinbei got blitzed. Sanji's speed at the very least perception blitzes people's second commander level and below. This is obviously because he does this to Queen, a second commander, and Oven, someone below second commander level. Jinbei, being relative to someone below third commander level, is just not in his favor, in terms of speed at least. But to be fair to Jinbei, we'll just say that he could perceive base Sanji. Just like Karakuri, however, Diablo Jambe Sanji would just disappear before his eyes. If you want to grant him perception of Diablo Jambe, then by all means, but Ifrit Jambe is not debatable. If Sanji is pushed to use Diablo Jambe or Ifrit Jambe, Sanji would combo Jinbei so fast, he'd reunite with Fidget Tiger the next second. And yes, Jinbei fans, his kicks will damage Jinbei, as Jinbei's durability without a mental amp is able to be bypassed by a mere Fang pistol, and consistently as he has to dodge them. Sanji's kicks would scale above them, as Fang pistols wouldn't scale to Queen, who claims that he, King, and Jack have unparalleled toughness compared to the other members of the crew, excluding obviously Kaido. And I say this because Sanji's kicks absolutely decimate Queen. Now let's just say Jinbei gets a couple hits on Sanji with long range attacks. And yes, Jinbei's Duraneg would actually hurt Sanji. Then boom, Sanji just regenerates. He just regenerates and then goes back to comboing Jinbei. Okay, I think I got my point across. Let's go to the second fight, a fight underwater. So now we have a fight between Jinbei and Sanji underwater. Let's see how the outcome would change. See, I can argue that Sanji can perception blitz Jinbei underwater because Sanji flies in the air like he swims underwater with Blue Walk and Skywalk, and he was using Skywalk when he was perception blitzing Queen. Nah, forget that. Let's just cap Sanji as just faster than Jinbei underwater. But again, Sanji has Blue Walk. Sanji with Blue Walk would just combo Jinbei from multiple angles because he's kicking the water. And keep in mind, Sanji can use his flames underwater, so Diablo Jambe and Ifrit Jambe is not out of the equation. But since Jinbei is underwater, there is one thing he can do, and it's throwing Sanji out with Ocean Current shoulder throw. But sadly, that does not do any damage. But say that Jinbei actually does throw Sanji out of the water. Do you guys remember how Sanji knocked out Luffy back in Whole Cake Island? Same thing would happen here, except he would go from the air to the water to Jinbei. So let's break it down. He's high in the air after being thrown out of the water by Jinbei. He uses Skywalk to kick himself against gravity, enters the water, uses Blue Walk, and then with all of that momentum and speed, he uses Concaster, and damn. Looks like the Straw Hat crew is feasting on fried salmon tonight. In conclusion, whether it's on land or in water, if it's a 1v1 against Jinbei, bet on Sanji. Jinbei doesn't have the speed, strength, durability, or hacks to handle the Straw Hat crew's real number 3. I really enjoyed creating this video, mostly because I'm talking about Sanji again. If you enjoyed this, consider leaving a like and subscribing. And I'll catch y'all in the next one.